Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about systems, processes, and standards. Now, the reason that I want to talk about systems, processes, and standards is because they are so important. Now, a few weeks ago, well, really a week as of this recording, I had the privilege to be a part of 3 of 7 project and their proving ground training. Now, this is led by Chad Wright, a former Navy SEAL who spent a decade in the teams. What I learned this weekend and going through this training, it's one of those things. First, you can't really explain experience. It's somewhat hard to really convey that experience, right? Like explain eating a taco, right? I know that's a weird example to go from like leadership and standards and processes to like food, right? But explain like your best meal ever, right? It becomes very, very hard to explain that best meal, that best taco, what that best drink you ever had, whatever that tastes like is really hard. You have to do it in references, right? Well, it tastes like this other thing, right? That's obviously not as good, but that's how you have to explain stuff. And in setting a standard, having people around you to hold yourself and hold others to that standard is so important. And that's the biggest thing that I took out of that weekend. And it's 48 hours of training. It was hard. It was physically challenging, mentally challenging, and really just set a new standard for me in my life. What are the things that you look at? Who's around you? What are the structures that you have in place for your team, for your organization, and how do you do things? And so in going through this, I really saw, not just what they were doing, but so many other levels to this training. And one of the things when we talk about standards, right, and holding the line of a standard is that's not just in how you act, right? I mean, that's a big part of it, right? And so this training was the standard in the way that you take care of yourself, the way that you hold yourself accountable. How do you do things, right? The standard of excellence in, giving your all, not quitting, right? There's a lot of standards in a lot of areas in your life. And I think one of the standards in the architecture and engineering world that gets thrown around a lot is standard of care, right? That's somewhat of an insurance term, that's somewhat of a contractual term, but it's very, very important. And it's something that we should really talk about more often, right? That standard of care. But standard of care is, like what do you deliver, right, in your drawings? If you're doing AutoCAD and the standard of the industry is BIM, well, you're falling below that standard of care, meaning that you're not providing an adequate level of service to your clients. That's also from an insurance, it's from a contractual standpoint. Like you can get burned in a lot of ways if you're doing drawings just in AutoCAD versus doing them in BIM, right? You're falling below the standard of care of the industry or in your area. So that's one area. But having a standard and a process and a procedure to go through in your own business and everything that you do is also very important. Like for the proving ground, there was a standard set of activities and tasks that we were led through in a very controlled manner throughout the weekend, right? To us, it might have seemed like things maybe were out of control or we couldn't get the team to work together right, but that was our job as students, is to learn how to do this stuff. And as instructors, at their viewpoints, at their levels, to see us and how we engaged in any activity and any task and anything that we were doing, right? It was controlled in the manner of which we went through the training. There was supposed to be discomfort. There was supposed to be the team accepting the challenge and taking it upon themselves to figure out, right? We were supposed to get through hardship. We were supposed to get through adversity. We were supposed to do all these things. It was maybe not the most pleasant thing as a student, but it taught a valuable lesson, right? That we can do a lot of things, that we're able to get through stuff. But it was a process to get through. And so when we think about processes, how do we attach or attack processes in our projects, right? Is there a standard way that we go through it? Is there a standard way that we set up drawings? Is there a standard way that we do layouts? Is there a standard procedure that we flow through a project, right? Do we do one section first, then the next? Do we do one system type first and then the next, right? How are we progressing through a project? When do we circuit, right? Let me talk to electrical engineers specifically, since that's what I am, right? When do you lay out lighting? Do you lay out lighting before receptacles or after? Do you put in your panels first, or do you do your one lines first, right? Do you do any of your tagging and annotations first? What about general notes? When do you do those? How about room tags and annotation, like general tagging and labeling in your project? When do you put together fire alarm drawings, right? Is there a separate department that does that? When do they do them? When are they engaged? What about low voltage data devices, security, access control? Do you do a first stab and then go review with the client? Do you talk to the client first, right? All these steps and levels and detail as to when you engage a specific party, as to when you engage a specific piece, as to when you, if you're in charge of all of it, as I've been on projects, when do you go through and do it? Now, I'll tell you, it's taken me a long time to figure this one out, right? To be disciplined, to do a list, to set it down, and you follow the list in order, right? We want to think we know better. And a lot of the times, this has already been done before, right? Somebody has already gone through that process. Somebody has already given us those prompts. Somebody has already done all of that for us. So why not just follow that process? And if you don't have that process, just pick one, make one up, right? Like, hey, we're going to do outlets first. We're going to put all of our outlets into the project, all of our general purpose stuff. Then we're going to come back at a certain point, say at design documents, when at or 50% CDs, whatever that milestone is for you, when the architect has put in all the special equipment. That means like microwaves, refrigerators, freezers, ice makers, ovens, whatever it might be, all that specialty equipment stuff, roll up doors, window shades that are powered, all that kind of stuff. All those things, maybe you do at a later point, right? All general purpose receptacles, all general stuff go in at the beginning of the project. We can do that first and you can go through it, right? Then you come back, then you do fire alarm, right? Then you do lighting, then you do, and you just go down the path. Then we come back, then we do circuiting, then we do the next thing, then we do annotations, then we do whatever it might be, right? You understand all the pieces that you need in a project. You just have to now break them apart, put them in a list, and then have the ability to check that off. And then this can allow you to keep track of it. You can see transparently across your entire organization as to where people are, what's done, what you have left to go. It's almost like a progress schedule in construction, right? You have that list. Here's all the stuff that needs to be done. Here's where we are in it. Here's the milestone ratings for it. And then that allows you to adequately go through your list of tasks to do, assign those out, and it's very straightforward from there. So when you think about process system standards, right, there's a specific way to do something. There's an order in which it gets done. And there are people that you can hold accountable to that standard, to that process, to that system. And when you're able to hold people accountable to those processes, systems, and standards, you're able to get more done in less time. So I know that's a lot to cover. I'll be breaking this down in further videos. I'll be covering a lot more as we progress and go through. And I start doing more video again here. So thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know, like, if you're following any set of standards, any set of guidelines in the comments. I'm sure others would be happy to hear more from you as to what you're doing, as to the impact that you're having within your organization in having a set standard and process. So again, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.